Okay, so we'll go ahead and call the community investment meeting to order. I'll take a roll call. Vice Chair White,
Present.
Councilmember Bolden Simpson,
Present.
Councilmember Gooden Rogers.
Present.
And we have our citizen members this week, Citizen Member Gripe,
Present.
and Citizen Member Kanajeski.
Present.
Welcome back, gentlemen.
Thanks.
And with that, everybody is present and accounted for. This evening, we've got 3 confirming resolutions set. For every tax abatement, state law requires first a designating resolution and then a confirming resolution. Those have to be presented at separate meetings. We did hear the designating resolutions on these projects at our last meeting 2 weeks ago and approved those. So now those projects again are back for us for confirmation. So that for the folks that were here last time, they'll seem familiar. And with that, welcome, Mr. Glavich.
Thank you, President Warner. So as Councilmember Warner had mentioned, we'll be presenting on 3 confirming resolutions. The first one is for a 7-year real property tax abatement for an entity called Blueprint LLC, which is an entity related to HRP Construction. This property, you might recall from 2 weeks ago, was recently annexed into the city. HRP Construction plans on building a new headquarters at this facility. They will be consolidating operations around the region into South Bend. So it's a exciting project that we're happy that they've chosen South Bend to continue their operations. They are a water and wastewater construction firm. Their total investment for this property is about $3.7 million, or excuse me, $7.3 million for this project. Because of the expansion, it allows them to grow. So they are planning 6 new full-time jobs with a payroll around $500,000. And they'll also be able to retain the 48 employees they have currently. But like I said, this is an exciting venture because they'll be consolidating within the city limits of South Bend. The tax estimates, the property, if you were to use South Bend tax rates, is only about $6,000 annually. You know, it's basically a field at this point. And, you know, I think there's a house or two buildings on it. After the project is complete, you'll be looking at about $130,000 a year in tax revenue. When we apply the 7-year abatement, we anticipate over the 7 years that this entity would be abated about $500,000 in taxes. And during that same time, they will pay about $400,000. So I will pause there. I do know that HRP Construction is here. They can answer any questions that you might have, and I'll pause.
Gentlemen, welcome back. Anything to add? I just have you first start with your name and address for our record.
My apologies. My name is Matt Kane with HRP Construction. My residence is actually St. Joe, Michigan, south, but HRP and Blueprint are both South Bend.
5777 Cleveland Road. So
Thank you. Anything to add?
Nothing to add. Eric did a good job.
Okay, great. We'll go to committee members. Committee members, any preliminary questions? Any council members? Any council members online? Council member White, any questions?
No, I don't have any question. I just appreciate how you go through the process, the beginning of the tax abatement, and then the process that gets us to this point. So, no, I have no comments at all. Excellent job.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And with that, we will open a public hearing on Bill 2517. Any members of the public, either in person or online, wishing to speak on Bill 2517?
I do not see any members in person or online wishing to speak in favor or in opposition of the bill.
Thank you. With that, I'll bring it back for comment. Thank you for coming back again, gentlemen. This is an exciting project. Adding to that area, first annexing the land and now the investment in the community. I know you guys are a great employer here in the city, great wages. And we're excited about your investment. Any other council members or Councilmember Bolden Simpson?
Yes, we really appreciate your keeping your business in South Bend, and I appreciate your willingness to come to Rise Up Academy and talk to our students, some future employees.
thank you. We can get some more kids interested in construction as well.
Yeah.
Councilmember Lee?
Yep, I would just like to say thank you. We're grateful that you're growing into the first district, and we're very much happy and that you have decided to stay in South Bend, and most importantly, stay in the first district. We appreciate it. Thank you very much for your investment.
Thank you.
Any motions at this time?
I move that Bill 2517 be sent to the council with the full council with recommendation.
I'll second. We've got a motion for a favorable recommendation in a second. Clerk Torado, can you please do the roll call for us?
Committee member Gooden Rogers. Committee member Bolden Simpson.
Aye.
Committee Vice Chair White.
Aye.
Citizen member Thomas Gripe.
Aye.
Citizen member Kane Konjeski.
Aye.
Committee Chair Warner.
Aye.
All ayes.
All right. With that, the bill will go forward to 7 p.m. We'll see you then. Thank you. And at this time, we will hear jointly 2518 and 2519 regarding the same project, unless there's any objection. Seeing no objection, Mr. Glavich, go ahead, and then we will need separate motions and votes on the bills. Thank you.
Thank you. Just for the record, I just realized that I had cast the incorrect title on you. It's Chair Warner. I'm sorry that I
How dare
misspoke
you.
earlier. So I don't want President Lee to be upset at me. So the next two confirming resolutions for your consideration are for the rehabilitation of what is known as the Inwoods building. You might recall from the presentation 2 weeks ago that this building was built in the 1920s as a Sears and Roebuck store. From the 40s through the end of the 1980s, it was known as the Inwoods Grocery Store. It's been vacant for 25 years. This was the state of the building on the first floor just roughly a year and a half ago. It's, the Penny Hill Properties had purchased the property and have invested a lot of sweat and elbow grease to basically clean up a lot of debris. It was had significant water damage, but fortunately the bones were good. So they're taking on this project to rehabilitate this building. It's been vacant, 25 years the building had been vacant. So it's pretty significant that you have a small scale developer like Penny Hill Properties looking to invest and restore this property and really make it a staple element of that neighborhood. So just in terms of the total investment estimate is about $1.44 million. and, with the hopes of rehabilitating the building, activating the storefronts, creating space inside for small businesses and artists that, a conservative estimate is that this would create at least 8 new jobs because of this investment. The first resolution is a vacant building tax abatement. This is the situation where we're actually abating the existing taxes on the building. The reason behind that is it provides the developer just a little bit of more capital that they can invest in their property. So you can see on your screen the investments, or excuse me, the estimates for that particular tax abatement. The mixed use development real property tax abatement then would apply to the new incremental assessed value at the conclusion of their project. So you can see our estimates on the screen there as well. Currently the building's only bringing in about $6,700 a year. After their investment, you're looking at about $35,000 a year being brought in. So we're off, the declaratory resolution established what would be a 10-year tax abatement for this project. I will pause there. I know that Sarah is here. She can answer questions if you have them. So thank you.
Welcome back, Ms. Hill.
1812 East Wayne Street.
Anything to add on top of that?
Nope, nothing.
Okay. With that, we'll bring it to committee members. Committee members, any preliminary questions?
Could you talk a little bit about what your plans are and the timeline for those improvements?
Sure. In the next 2 years, we want to do 2 storefronts at the front, a restaurant in the back, and an art market with booths for small businesses and entrepreneurs throughout the middle of the building.
What's the estimated cost for that?
$1.4 million.
Oh, 1.4 for all that.
Mhm.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Any council members with questions? Okay, we'll take it to the public. Any members of the public wishing to speak on Bill 2518 or Bill 2519 in person or online?
I do not see any members of the public in person or online that wish to speak in favor or in opposition.
Okay, we'll bring it back to the committee. Any comments, committee members?
Thank you for contributing to downtown and keeping it up.
Mhm. Chair Warner, I just want to make a couple of comments. I'm trying to figure out how to get my hand up, so I'll learn that before the beginning of the 7 p.m. meeting. Just want to thank her for her previous investment on Michigan and the investment that she's going to be doing moving forward. It's going to really fit in with the plans that have been identified. And it's nice to see a young lady, coming forward because it really encourages others to see if she can do it, then they can do it. And this happens to be Women's History Month. So congratulations.
Thank you, Councilmember White. It's part of a number of different pieces that are all kind of developing there in that area within a few blocks. It's very exciting.
Mhm.
Councilmember Lee.
Just want to thank you again for your investment. That building is very special to the community. It was Whitmer McNeese on one side, and I think the middle area was also part of that. That's where we took piano lessons and saxophone lessons. And so for it to continue to be something that people can, artists can be a part of, it's important. And I'm just so grateful that people are investing in our downtown and bringing back to life these old buildings. So thank you very much.
This time I would entertain a motion on Bill 2518.
I move to send Bill 2518 to the full council with a favorable recommendation.
I second that motion.
We've got a couple seconds. Clerk Torado, can you please do a roll call?
Councilmember Gooden Rogers,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolden Simpson. Committee Vice Chair White,
Aye.
Citizen Member Thomas Gripe,
Aye.
Citizen Member Kane Konchesky.
Aye.
Committee Chair Warner,
Aye.
all ayes.
Thank you. At this time, I would entertain a motion on Bill 2519.
I'd like to make a motion for Bill 2519 be sent to the council with a favorable recommendation.
I have a motion and a second. Clerk, can you do a roll call, please?
Committee Member Bolden Simpson,
Aye.
Citizen Member Gooden Rogers,
Aye.
Committee Vice Chair White,
Aye.
Citizen Member Thomas Gripe,
Aye.
Citizen Member Kane Konchesky,
Aye.
Committee Chair Warner.
Aye.
All ayes.
Thank you. Both bills will go forward with a favorable. We'll see you one last time at 7 p.m., Ms. Hill. Thank you. And with that, we will, one more bill number 825, authorizing the city to issue one or more series bonds of its taxable economic development, TIF revenue bonds, and approving other actions regarding J.C. Hart Development Project. Good evening, Mr. Bauer. Welcome.
Good evening, committee members. Caleb Bauer, Executive Director of Community Investment, offices on the 14th floor of this building. If you'll bear with me one moment here. Before you today is ordinance that would authorize the issuance of taxable economic development tax increment revenue bonds. This is for the Riverwalk project from J.C. Hart Company. We had presented to you in the past was a resolution that established this new allocation area. And I mentioned we would come back before you for your consideration of authorization of the issuance of the bonds, which is what is before you today. So just to refresh your memory, J.C. Hart Development Company is proposing a 2-building, 291 apartment unit development that includes a wrapped 398 space parking garage. The minimum private investment committed as part of a development agreement with the Redevelopment Commission is $61.5 million. The infrastructure supporting this site would be funded through a Ready 2.0 award for $5.64 million. That is still contingent on final signature of that contract with IEDC, but that has been publicly announced by the Regional Development Authority as an award. And as I mentioned, this is 2 buildings fronting the river opposite Howard Park. You may recall this presentation I made before you, I believe last month, but 291 apartment units, a mix of bedroom sizes, and then the structured parking garage, which is contained within the second building. So that would be what we call a wrapped parking garage, meaning if you're on the outside of the building, you're not going to see the parking structure itself. You're going to see apartment units on the outside of that building. Here is the parcel in question. It was recently subdivided, and so it really is the parcel that contains the southernmost of the Crow campus buildings. The northernmost building will remain, and Holiday Corporation has a long-term lease with Crow for their headquarters to stay in that building. This building in the yellow parcel would be demolished as part of the development. And here is just showing you as part of an overall master planning concept, the buildings as proposed, where they would be placed. What's shown to the southeast here is conceptual, but just showing you how street connections we hope would be reestablished in alignment with the Monroe Park neighborhood plan that was approved by the Common Council in 2023. Here's a couple renderings of the site. Here's where we are in the approval process. And so, as I mentioned, your previous resolution created a new allocation area that covers just the single parcel that the development will rest upon. What you're considering today is authorizing the administration to actually issue and then close upon taxable economic development bonds that are part of that developer-backed bond structure. And I'll get into that a little bit here. What that is a bond issuance that would generate estimated $14.8 million in gross proceeds, with about 11.9 of those being net proceeds after funding the bond issuance costs and capitalized interest for 2 years. What would be done with this new allocation area is 90% of the new incremental tax revenue over the 25-year lifetime of the allocation area would be pledged to cover the debt service on this taxable bond issuance. So that increment, self-contained, the new property taxes from the development will be used to pay the debt service on the financing that unlocked on upfront capital that can go into the project. An additional 6% of incremental revenue would be pledged up to a flat $1.342 million amount. This was a negotiated term with the developer at the request of the city to absorb a portion of Crow's parking into the structured garage, so minimize the need for surface parking for Crow, who will remain north of the site. And just to show, so we're talking $11.9 million in net proceeds. The structured garage itself costs $10.13 million. And so the vast majority of the subsidy, the incentive being provided here is to offset that structured parking garage construction cost. That's not unusual for the members of the council who are on the redevelopment commission. Historically, a development that involves a structured parking garage is likely to need to receive incentives. This is not unusual in the state of Indiana or in many cities in the country where a parking market does not exist to finance the construction of new structured garages because of those upfront costs and the maintenance costs. So that's really the focus of this incentive. We're really hoping to continue to move towards a denser downtown environment, and that will involve the construction of structured parking garages. Project timeline, it's a pretty accelerated timeline. The developer is looking to close on the project property this month. We would look to close on the bonds this year, middle of this year. Infrastructure design is already underway. And we would look at an invitation to bid on the infrastructure work later this spring. Developer construction would be a 30-month construction timeline with demolition of that Crow building beginning later this year. So really teed up for this to move relatively quickly for the scale of a development that it is, if you were to approve this ordinance. Just to go into a little bit more detail, we are requesting a $17 million authorization. You might recall the gross proceed estimate on this bond would actually be $14.9 million. We do request regularly when we do issue bonds, we typically are going to request a little bit larger ceiling there as we go to market in case conditions are changing. But I would not expect us to actually need to issue at that amount. The city would then, you would be authorizing the city to enter into a bond purchase agreement with J.C. Hart and execute the necessary financing documents. The Common Council would also approve the TIF pledge adopted by the Redevelopment Commission, which is that 90% of the increment plus the 6%. And this being a developer-backed scenario, the developer is absorbing the risk in a scenario where the tax revenues are lower than expected. So unlike other bond issuances, the city is not pledging a new levy to cover the debt service obligations for this allocation area. That would be the developer making that commitment. So if for whatever reason the property tax bill comes back lower than we've all estimated, the developer would have to pay the difference to cover that debt service obligation. This is just a little bit more about the bill. I think we've already talked about the company, but just to run through, they've got existed since 1976, Indiana-based multifamily developer, award-winning firm with over 6,000 multifamily units managed within Indiana and Ohio. This would be J.C. Hart's first project in South Bend, but they have done projects throughout the state of Indiana. Here's a couple examples, a few in Indianapolis, Monon Square in Carmel, Indiana, recently completed East Bank Apartments in Noblesville, Indiana, and then the Continuum in West Lafayette. Just a refresher on the project-based TIF allocation area, as I mentioned, we're looking at a new incremental assessed value. So the base assessed value will continue to go to the taxing entities that it goes to. We're only capturing the incremental, the increase in assessed value that's being pledged back for that debt service payment. And then just a high-level project report. looking at 225 temporary construction jobs, 6 new permanent full-time jobs. Those would be property managers and maintenance staff. And as I mentioned, the same commitments in the development agreement are part of this, which is 291 apartment units and a 398 space structured garage. That is the gist of it, but I'm happy to take any questions. We've also got Randy Rampola and Tom Everett from Barnes and Thornburg here, the city's bond counsel, as well. Representatives from J.C. Hart, Todd May, and Chandler Sturgis are online, as well. Emma Adlam, municipal finance advisor from Baker Tilly for the city on this deal, is also online if you have questions for any of that.
Okay, thank you. Committee members, any questions from committee members? Mr. Gray?
Caleb, how did you go about was this a bidding process to choose this developer? How'd that process go?
So this property is not a city-owned property. The property in question was purchased by Holiday Corporation. And so they had conducted a solicitation that led to, I don't know all the details of that. It was a private solicitation that led to J.C. Hart being selected and a purchase agreement being negotiated between those parties. So to the south of this site is the River Glen site, 3 buildings that formerly comprised the the Prescaney headquarters campus. That site is owned by the Redevelopment Commission, and we have conducted an RFP there seeking developers. We didn't have any initial submissions, but we have had a number of inquiries while keeping that RFP open since that initial deadline. So conversations are ongoing there. So the thought is we want to, move from north to south on this site. J.C. Hart is ready to go. And so we're hoping to unlock the northern portion of this area, but then eventually work through redevelopment of the full office park area.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any uncertainty with the $5.64 million of ready grants funds to be anticipated?
I would not anticipate any uncertainty. I will say, the Regional Development Authority has the appropriating authority for those funds, and they announced that award late last year. However, we do have to sign an agreement with the Indiana Economic Development Commission Corporation that remits those funds. And so I'm just sharing that we're working through that contract. Typically, I would expect that to go smoothly. It has been going generally smoothly, but we do not have a signed contract yet. So we'll be working towards that here in the next couple of months.
Thank you.
So I will add, I know in previous, so we've had a number of hearings on this. We've talked about the infrastructure and kind of as we changed that commercial office park kind of into primarily housing that, the infrastructure is going, we expect to exceed that 5.4 million once we do streets and sewer changes and water lines also.
I would expect it to likely exceed that number for the broader redevelopment. If we're calling this phase 1 of this area, I think the ready funds can cover that cost. But to the south, adding, additional street grid, we might, we're working on preliminary design for the whole area just to get those budget estimates, but it might be closer to that number.
Okay, thank you. Any other committee members, any council members, Councilmember Moore?
Thank you. Thanks again. I know I've asked this before, but just to clarify, is this the first time that we've used a project-based TIF in the city, Mr. Bauer?
This is the first time recently. There have been some similar structures historically with some smaller allocation areas. But this is a common usage of tax increment financing in the state of Indiana, which we sometimes refer to it as a project-based TIF financing or the developer-backed. But this is common throughout the state. And, I think what is interesting and I think useful. The utility of this tool is that it can scale with the size of the investment. So we're not reliant on how much cash on hand does the redevelopment commission have from an allocation area. We're pledging future increment that is unlocked by the project itself. And so you can scale it for these bigger projects where would the commission have $17 million or excuse me, $14 million or 11.9 to equate to the net proceeds to commit to assist with that garage development in current revenue on hand. The commission actually would have that, but that would take away from all the other priorities that the commission is looking to invest in. And so this is a scalable solution, a scalable incentive that utilizes increment generated by the project itself. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember White, any comment, questions?
No, I'm fine. Everything was, presented, and I really appreciate the process and also the timeline that was given to us as well.
Okay, seeing no more at this time, we'll go to the public. Any members of the public wishing to speak on Bill 8-25, either in person or online?
I do not see any individuals from the public or online that wish to speak in favor or in opposition of the bill.
Okay, with that, I'll bring it back to committee. I'll make just a brief comment. This is exciting. I think the part I like is that we're helping assist the funding of this project. We're using the increment of the TIF dollars to pay that back. And if that falls short, it's on the developer. So really the commitment to the city is small to nothing here. I was going to ask Mr. Rampolla, anything, given our discussion, anything to add on the financing or the bond? And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to ignore you.
Always happy not to speak. Randy Rampolla with Barnes and Thornburg with offices at 201 South Main Street. Nothing really any further. I was commenting to Tom that Caleb stole my notes. If I were to ask to speak to the ordinance, Caleb addressed all of it. I would say this is a very common financing technique. The combination of using the tax increment and the city's Economic Development Commission, we've worked on projects all over the state for probably the last 8 to 10 years. And it's now a very common, powerful tool, particularly for communities that are trying to attack the challenge of new housing. The other thing I would say about the financing itself, and I use the draconian example of, and Caleb referred to it, if the project didn't sustain itself, if the property taxes aren't generating, or if the tax bill wasn't generating enough TIF revenue, or the developer failed to pay it and then failed to pay its own obligation to repay the bonds defaulted, then the city would not be at risk at all. There would be no rating impact. It's not a city obligation at all. The extent of the city's obligation, if you will, and I hesitate to even say the word obligation, is the pledged TIF revenues. That is the only source of funding that the city is obligated to pay. And that's only if the developer is paying its property taxes, because it's a project-based TIF.
Thank you. You gave a better explanation than that I was trying to make. So thank you. I think, I don't say I'm jealous of Mishawaka very much, but, they got all that new housing over there along the river. It's a nice area. This kind of does that same thing. And we get, add that to the south there along Monroe, and it'd be exciting. And feed over to things Miss Hill is doing and Danny Maid and other things downtown. So any comments? Questions, final. With that, I'll entertain a motion on Bill 825.
I'll make a motion to send Bill 825 to full council with a favorable recommendation.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for favorable. Clerk Toronto, can you please give us a roll call vote?
Committee Member Gooden Rogers.
Aye.
Committee Member Bolden Simpson.
Aye.
Committee Vice Chair White.
Aye.
Citizen Member Kane Kujeski.
Aye.
Citizen Member Thomas Gray.
Aye.
Committee Chair Warner.
Aye.
All ayes.
Thank you. Bill, go forward with a favorable recommendation. And with that, we will adjourn community investment and turn it over to Chair Nitzkotsky for personnel and finance.
I'm on the committee. No one person financial.
Okay, good afternoon. It is now 5:34 and I would like to call to order the Personal and Finance Committee meeting. Clerk Toronto, do you want to call the roll for the committee, please?
Committee Member Thomas Morgan,
Present.
Committee Member Dr. Davis,
Present.
Committee Vice Chair White,
Present.
Committee Chair Niskoski,
Present.
or present.
Thank you. We do have a quorum and I see our city controller Kyle Willis is here to present Bill 99-25. If you want to go ahead and name and address and the floor is all yours.
Was gonna forget about that. Kyle Willis, City Controller, offices on the 12th floor. Bill number 9-25, proposes to adjust salaries for non-captain positions salaries to raise those to the level of captain salaries. These were inadvertently omitted from the fire's CBA agreement. So we're just here to get that corrected and also get those positions retroactively paid for those lost salaries or those lost funds.
And that was the result of the last negotiations that we had?
Correct. So those negotiations were for this fiscal year of 2025. So we just need to get that corrected in the agreement.
Okay, thank you. Is there any questions?
What led to them being neglected?
Excuse me?
What led to them being neglected or forgotten about or not put in the regular budget?
No, this wasn't anything that we did purposely, was to omit this from the agreement. It was missed that we didn't get this included. So that's why we're here today, to make sure it is included and to retroactively pay those firefighters for this era.
I see the chief is here. Do you have anything you would like to say, chief?
Thank you, council members. Carl R. Buchanan, Fire Chief, South Bend Fire Department Office, 1222 South Michigan. Yes, I'd like to address that same question Council Member Davis just mentioned. It wasn't done intentionally. It was inadvertent because part of our CBA was stipulating that captains would be paid a particular amount. And we have investigators, inspectors, community paramedicine, paramedics, and maybe a couple other positions in the 8-hour role that have always been paid the captain's salary. But they're not necessarily captains in that, because they're not captains per the 24-hour firefighters captain's agreement, but they do get the captain's salary. And that just wasn't stipulated during the CBA negotiations. So it wasn't like we was not trying to pay them. It was written to where it kind of included captains in particular. And some of these individuals, they are captains, but some of them are not necessarily the rank of captain. But in that position, they do get the captain's salary. If that helps, Councilmember.
Has that language been changed now to address it, or will that be done during our summer negotiations?
I'm hoping that language has been changed to cover this year's CBA agreement. And moving forward, we will make sure that it's included in the next negotiation.
Okay, thank you.
And that's this year, correct?
That is correct. That's for 2025.
So
It was
this was-
for a 1-year agreement on.
Thank you. That's what I was gonna say. This was a 1-year agreement. We come back to the table and then that negotiation process will start again. And they'll give that the time to get this corrected.
Yes,
Okay, thank you.
thank you.
Honorable council members, it's Adam Taylor, Assistant City Attorney and 12th floor of the County City Building. I'll just speak to it briefly because Chief owned that there was a mistake that was made, but I will personally own any ambiguity that led to this. There is a chart that was submitted with the ordinance and that included the breakdown of the positions. And ultimately, both sides of the negotiating table understood that captains and these other positions were supposed to be paid at this captain level. And with that chart, when the lawyers put it together, we missed that. It was a misunderstanding with the operations side of what the fire department is doing. So ultimately, this is a legal drafting or scrivener's error rather than any error that the fire department or the union made. So they were under the same understanding. This is just ultimately trying to correct for and make it accord with what the understanding was on both sides of the negotiating table. So if you have any further questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Okay, thank you. Is there any questions from committee members? No? Okay, is there any question from any of the council members that are still here? President, Vice President, no? Okay, thank you so much. We appreciate that explanation. Since I see no other questions here, I'm going to go ahead and open up the public hearing meeting. Is there anyone here wishing to speak in favor of Bill 9-25?
I do not see any members of the public or online wishing to speak in favor.
Thank you. Is there anyone wishing to speak against?
I do not see anyone from the public or online wishing to speak in opposition.
Thank you. I'm going to bring it back, and thank you, Mr. Willis. I'm going to bring it back. Any comments? If not, I'll entertain a motion regarding the bill. Yes? You'd like to make a comment?
Thank you, Chair. I just want to thank you very much for the clarification, explanation of why this is coming to us and the fact that it's a scrivener's error. Just really appreciate that. I move that we send Bill 09-25 to the Committee of the Whole with a favorable recommendation.
Second.
There's been a motion. It's been duly seconded. Could you call the roll, please, Clerk Toronto?
Committee Member Thomas Morgan.
Aye.
Committee Member Dr. Davis.
Aye.
Committee Vice Chair White.
Aye.
Committee Chair Niskoski.
Aye.
4 ayes.
Thank you. Bill 9-25 will be sent to the Committee of the Whole with a favorable recommendation. So we're going to go ahead and move on to Bill number 10-25.
Yes, Kyle Willis, City Controller, offices on the 12th floor, Bill number 10-25. Proposes the title changes for 2 positions within Innovation and Technology, Software Specialist to title change to Enterprise Software Specialist, and Case Manager title change to Resident Success Liaison. These changes are being made to just better reflect this position's responsibilities compared with the work that they do. So that the title change is more reflective of that position. And then the fire department, non-bargaining position for a digital communication and multimedia training coordinator. This position is also within the police department. So this person will be charged with being the primary contact person between the fire department and the community. They will manage the fire department's social media sites, be the driver of getting out information regarding their programs, initiatives, and special events that the fire department may have. So, like I said, similar to the police department. So if you follow the police department's Facebook page or on LinkedIn, you'll see videos of Chief Ruskowski doing some fun things or just out in the community, being present at various programs that they support. But also here today is Chief Buchanan to speak to that position if you have any questions regarding what else this position may be doing as well.
Okay, thank you for that explanation. Chief, you want to come up and address the council or the committee?
Thank you, honorable council members. Carl Buchanan, Fire Chief, South Bend Fire Department, Office 1222 South Michigan Street. Be happy to answer any questions in regards to that position.
I had a question. I do have a question. Those are 2 different positions or is it one?
It's going to be one position. It's basically an extension or expansion of the previous position that we had as a PIO, Public Information Officer, that was held by a sworn firefighter. We are actually stepping outside of our realm as far as evolving that position to be a little bit more in depth, to do quite a bit more than we were asking our initial PIO officer to do, to be a little bit more present and give us more of a viewpoint from our perspective to our citizens, showing exactly what we're doing, why we're doing it, and just being more transparent as a department in general. Making sure that the public knows that we're not just out there just for EMS or fire calls. We have a multitude of other valuable assets that we present to the public, and sometimes it gets overlooked because folks just think that we only respond to fires or EMS calls. But we have a very robust smoke alarm program that's been in effect for a long time now, and it's really ramping up, obviously, since last year's unfortunate fatality. And a lot of citizens are really asking us to come and provide some public education and some fire and life safety skills for them and their families. So this particular position is going to really help us to highlight a lot of our personnel and a lot of our programs that we have implemented over the last few years or so. And so that's why it's not two positions, it's actually just one. And we're basically, instead of a PIO, it's a digital media relations communications specialist.
Okay, thank you for that explanation.
welcome.
And that program, by the way, is a wonderful program. They actually get out in the community. You guys go door to door, you talk to the residents in that community. And I believe you do fire extinguishers too, or had in the past.
We do fire extinguishers, we
So it's a
do
wonderful program.
carbon monoxide detectors. And one of the greatest things about the smoke alarm program is that it's not just focused on just your regular general smoke alarm, but even the hearing impaired smoke alarm. So we want to make sure that we are ADA compliant, and we're not just focusing on just citizens of one particular nature or the other, but also all of our citizens are being included.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Appreciate that explanation.
Does-
Councilmember Davis, you have a
Does that
question?
a program also, or will that person also talk about people who have or live in attics or the second floors where they can have some kind of extension that goes out of their windows so they can come down too? Because more people need to consider ways to get out in case there's fire.
Yes,
floor.
this same person will orchestrate with our public education officers. All of that is included in our fire and life safety, far as our fire and life safety education, just helping to ensure that the public know all of their, all the different means that's available to them in case the situation arises. Because as we know, it's not if it'll happen, but when it'll happen, because a lot of things are either could be mechanically produced or it could be human nature induced. And so this person will coordinate with our public education officers to get out there. They'll get the information that this person or persons is interested in hearing more about these programs, and they will be able to provide it or send it to the best place for it to go, whether it be to instructors or whether it be to technicians or just fire personnel in general, because it may be in one of the particular stations district, and we could have those crews go when they have obviously the time to do it, but they can go and they can provide that same education to the public.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Councilmember Tomas.
Any other questions?
Steve, I have a question. I think the position that I have in mind, it is, or what we're used to is the Ashley O'Chap's position in PD. Is that a similar position that you're trying to create here? Not just reactionary, but proactive communication?
Definitely. Most of it is pretty much the same as Ashley. In fact, Ashley is helping us to narrow down our decision as far as who is going to be that individual to take on that position. But we feel that she is doing a fabulous job over there. We really appreciate her and see her as an asset for the city. And so it would be remiss if we didn't utilize her in seeing the great things that she's doing over there to help us to reach that same level. But the differences will come in, PD's initiatives is a little different than the fire department's perspective. Because we're also going to be including CPR, because we do teach CPR not only to the schools, businesses, and just to the public, as well as our own firefighters. So CPR is a big part of that as well, where the individual, if they are not already a CPR instructor, we will make sure that they have been certified as an instructor as well. Because you never know if this individual is out there, wherever they are, and they're representing the South Bend Fire Department. If anyone was to have any type of medical emergency that needed, whether it be cardiac arrest or a heart attack, we want to make sure that our representatives know at least how to assist them.
Great. Thank you so much, Chief. I think that's a really important position for your department and glad to see it coming.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Is there any other questions from the committee member? Or Councilmember White, did you have a question?
No, I'm fine. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions? Okay, seeing none, Chief, and I'd be remiss if I didn't say thank you for everything the fire department does to protect our community and to advocate for all of these very important programs that can, as we all know, can save a life. So I wanted to make that comment. I'd go ahead then and like to open up the public hearing portion. Is there anyone here from the public wishing to speak in favor of Bill 10-25?
I do not see anyone in person or in line wishing to speak in favor of the bill.
Is there anyone wishing to speak against?
I do not see anyone wishing to speak in opposition.
Thank you. I'll bring it back to the committee. Is there any comments from anyone?
No, I just move to bring this bill to the committee of the whole with a favorable recommendation.
Second?
Okay, there has been a motion and duly seconded. Clerk Bianca, can you take the roll, please?
Committee Member Thomas Morgan.
Aye.
Committee Member Dr. Davis.
Aye.
Committee Vice Chair White.
Aye.
Committee Chair Niskoski.
Aye.
4 ayes.
Thank you. Bill 10-25 will go to the committee of the whole with a favorable recommendation. Okay. So we're going to move on to Bill 1125, and this is another salary ordinance with the Teamsters. So take it away, Mr. Willis.
Kai Willis, City Controller, offices on the 12th floor. Bill number 11-25 adds a full-time employee to the Teamster salary ordinance, building maintenance position. This position is a position that will be specifically housed for the new City Hall building. And that's, this is being created just for that purpose, to have someone as the main point of the building maintenance there.
So unlike with this building, I believe it's managed by the county, so they have their own staff that does maintenance for this building. So you want to create a position in the new building, the new City Hall, that would have that one person basically to report to for any building issues.
Correct, yeah, that'll be, it'll be the point of contact for any maintenance issues within the building, and probably just some other areas as well.
Okay, thank you. And did you say this was, oh yes, this is a Teamster. Okay, thank you. Any questions from committee? Councilmember Davis?
Now, with that person, will they be over a group of people, or will they be just the person doing it themselves, or?
Right now, it'll be that person kind of managing the maintenance. So there'll be other Teamster positions that's already within central services that may help out, but like this would be like the main person.
This would be the main person that the other people will report to for that stuff.
Correct.
So we are not contracting out any services. They would be strictly from the Teamsters to come over for this person to report to.
Yes.
For them to report to this person.
Correct.
Okay.
Is there any, did that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you have another question, Dr. Davis?
That's not necessary. I will talk to you with that one afterwards.
Okay.
I have a question, but it's okay.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else from the committee that has a question?
Councilmember White has a question.
Councilmember White.
Thank you. I just want to make sure I have clarity because we went through the contract and that this position is being added to the contract that was approved, correct? And
Correct.
so it'll be for the calendar year and it's adding this new position in preparation of the move from the current building to the new building.
Correct.
And it'll be a city employee and part of the
Yes.
Teamsters. Okay,
Yes.
thank you. That's all I needed. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember White.
Mhm.
Any other questions from any other council members? President Lee, Vice President Tomas Morgan, no? Okay, thank you so much. I'm going to go ahead then and open up the public hearing portion. Is there anyone here wishing to speak in favor of Bill 1125?
I do not see anyone in person or online wishing to speak in favor.
Is there anyone wishing to speak against?
I do not see anyone in person or online wishing to speak in opposition.
Thank you kindly. I'll bring it back to the committee. Is there any comments from the committee members? If not, I'll entertain a motion regarding the bill.
I move that we send Bill 11-25 to the Committee of the Whole with a favorable recommendation.
Second.
There's been a motion and duly seconded to send 1125 to the Committee of the Whole with a favorable recommendation. Clerk Torado, could you call the roll, please?
Committee Member Tomas Morgan,
Aye.
Committee Member Dr. Davis,
Aye.
Committee Vice Chair White,
Aye.
Committee Chair Niskoski,
Aye.
4 ayes.
Thank you kindly. This bill will be sent to the Committee of the Whole with a favorable recommendation. Now I'd like to entertain a motion to accept the substitute bill 12-25.
So move.
Second.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Clerk Torado, could you call the roll?
Committee Member Tomas Morgan,
Aye.
Committee Member Dr. Davis,
Aye.
Committee Vice Chair White,
Aye.
Committee Chair Niskoski,
Aye.
4 ayes.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Willis, I see you're still here, so.
Substitute Bill 12-25 authorizes budget transfers within various departments. Just a couple highlights from the budget transfers. Bill number 12-25 is $595,000, $694 in budget transfers for community programming to community initiatives. This is to capture the realignment that took place during this year's budget cycle for VPA. Didn't fully get captured during the process, so we are here to transfer those budgets from community programming to community initiatives to make sure they're in alignment with the new VPA structure. Also, a budget transfer of $81,208 from the Admin and Finance Department to the Legal Department to cover the personnel expenses for the OVB clerk that is located within the legal department.
Okay, thank you so much. Is there any questions from the committee? No, any of the council members have any questions? President Lee, any questions? No? Okay, thank you so much. I'm going to go ahead then and move to the public hearing portion. Is there anyone here wishing to speak in favor of substitute bill 12-25?
I do not see anyone in person or online wishing to speak in favor.
Thank you. Is there anyone wishing to speak against?
I do not see anyone in person or online wishing to speak in opposition.
Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing on substitute bill 12-25 and bring it back to the committee. Any comments or entertain a motion regarding the bill?
Move to bring bill number 1225 to the Committee of the Whole with a favorable recommendation.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Clerk Torado, could you call the roll, please?
Committee Member Tomas Morgan,
Aye.
Committee Member Dr. Davis,
Aye.
Committee Vice Chair White,
Aye.
Committee Chair Niskoski,
Aye.
4 ayes.
Thank you. The substitute bill 1225 will be sent to the Committee of the Whole with a favorable recommendation. So our last bill that we have is Bill 13-25, and you're on, Mr. Willis.
Kyle Willis, City Controller, offices on the 12th floor. Few highlights from Bill 13-25, $7.5 million appropriation for the Kennedy Park grant. I think everyone's aware right now what's going on in DC, so a lot of the federal funding has been paused. So what we are doing here is just lining up this appropriation for this grant. We don't have any reason to think that we will not be awarded this grant. It's just they paused the federal funding, and they have not sent the agreement for us to sign off on for this grant. So we do intend on receiving this grant, but we just want to have this approval in place so that once we receive that award and are able to sign off on it, we can keep things moving and not have to wait, additional time to get the approval of spending these grant funds. So, but also with grant funding, for majority of the grants that we receive, they are reimbursable grants, so we don't receive the funds upfront. So we will have to spend funding and get reimbursed on the back end. And right now, we have not spent any money for this project. We are waiting on the approval before we do that, but we want to make sure we have the approval locally before, so that when we get the actual award from the federal government, we can move forward with that. Another appropriation is for 1.3 million. This is for to appropriate the funding for furnishing the new City Hall building. Once everything is ready, we'll use those funds to purchase new office equipment for the various departments and divisions that will be housed in the new City Hall department, or City Hall building, sorry. And then there's a $1.4 million appropriation for streets and sewers, for utility expenses. This particular appropriation was missed during the budget cycle for 2025. This fund, or these expenses used to be housed in Fund 404, which is the fund we no longer use. So that was missed during the budget cycle for 2025, and we are just appropriating those funds for the remainder of the year.
And that's into 641.
Actually, so Fund 404 was where these expenses were paid from previously. They are now paid out of the general fund.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, thank you so much for that explanation in reference to 1325. I'll bring it to the committee members. Are there any questions? Dr. Davis, do you have a question?
Not at this time.
No? Okay. Council or Vice President Rachel Tomas Morgan?
Yes, I have a couple questions. So, understanding that we expect to receive the federal grant for the park, then will you expect to then reimburse the fund of what we're appropriating today?
Correct. So yeah, so
Okay.
we'll make those expenses out of I think it's Fund 408. And then once we submit those with reimbursements to the federal government, those funds come back in, they'll go back into 408.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. And then my second question was, let's see, 250,000 for increased demand for sewer lateral connection program. That's in addition to what we've already budgeted. Do you recall how much is budgeted for this year?
I don't recall what the
Okay.
exact amount is. It's just, there's been an increase in demand, housing going up and wanting to get connected to the sewer system. So that's why we've had to increase that budget line there. Director Horvath is here today. It was not here, but online. If you have any additional questions, I'm not sure if he knows what that budget amount was, but he may be able to.
Let's find out.
Yeah. Okay.
Director Horvath, I remember when go ahead.
Right. I was gonna say Eric Horvath, Public Works Director, office on 13th floor. Yes, we did do 250,000, but we've had a lot of demand, which is a good problem to have. So we've got a lot of homes that are going in, and we've got a backlog of people that are waiting in the program. And so we wanted to make sure that we could meet those needs. So that's why we're doing the additional 250.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Horvath. And then, so last year was not the first year we utilized this the year before too, was it? Did we utilize all the funds that were available for this program then? And did we exceed that amount? Did we
So
start the program in 23? Was that it?
Yeah, I don't recall exactly, but last year we did use all the funds.
Okay, great.
And then, in fact, we had some that the demand was carried over to this year. And then, so as soon as we had that budget for this year, we've had people in line for those funds. And that's why we're requesting additional, because we've got more people in line. So we'll have to reevaluate this program, and we're looking at some different options with it right now. But, it's actually great news to see new residential housing construction going up in South Bend, and some of these, vacant properties being filled with, going back onto the productive tax rolls. So that's good.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we know that these are important funds to fill that gap, and so it's all good news. Even though we're spending more money on it, it's good news because more housing is going up. Thank you.
Okay, and
You're
I would just like to comment, I believe when that ordinance was passed for the housing, helping new developers try and make it affordable to put homes in the city limits, because as we know, utilities can be very expensive. I believe that you did state at that time it would be a evaluation program, time to see how is this program going to be utilized? And obviously you guys have got the word out to a lot of these new developers we see coming in and putting in housing. So I do recall that conversation. So I'm sure that this will have to be revisited if we're going to continue to see affordable housing and market rate housing and all types of other housing being built in the city. So thank you. Okay, is there any other questions from anybody regarding Bill 1325? Councilmember White, no? Anybody else?
None at this
President Lee?
time.
Okay. Well, then I'm going to go ahead and open it up to the public hearing. Is there anyone here wishing to speak in favor of Bill 13-25?
I do not see any members from the public or online wishing to speak in favor.
Is there anyone here wishing or online that would to speak against?
I do not see anyone in person or online wishing to speak in opposition.
Thank you. I'm going to close the public hearing on 1325 and bring it back to the committee. Any comments, or would you like to entertain a motion regarding the bill?
I'd like to entertain a motion to bring Bill 1325 to the committee of the whole with a favorable recommendation.
Second.
Second.
Thank you. There has been a motion and it's been duly seconded. Clerk Toronto, could you call?
Committee Member Thomas Morgan,
Aye.
Committee Member Dr. Davis,
Aye.
Committee Vice Chair White,
Aye.
Committee Chair Nisgowsky.
Aye.
4 ayes.
Thank you. Bill 13-25 will be under the committee of the whole with a favorable recommendation. I do not believe there's any other business to come before this committee, so a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Our informal meeting, Bill 2517 goes to the full council with a favorable recommendation. Bill 2518 goes to the full council with a favorable recommendation. Bill 2519 goes to the full council with a favorable recommendation. Bill 0825 goes to the committee of the whole with a favorable recommendation. And Bill 0925, 1025, 1125, 1225, and 1325 goes to the committee of whole, all with favorable recommendations. We'll have our invocation from Pastor Joanne Schetzel, First AME Zion Church, our pledge to the flag, roll call. We'll have report from the subcommittee on meetings for February 24th. There is no special business. We'll have reports from city offices, and community investment will give us an update on major projects. We'll do committee of the whole, third readings. Then we'll do resolutions, bills on first reading, unfinished business, new business, privilege of the floor. And we will adjourn after all of that. And it is a beautiful day out today. So this was good work with all of us working together. All of these bills have been unanimous and favorable. And so we're grateful, and we'll see you at 7 p.m. We're now adjourned.